My name is Dr. Brian Thatcher, and welcome to Mercy Unbound, a series that aims to provide hope, an avenue for healing, and one that will help you better understand the great mercy of God. In today's show, I'll be speaking with Cassaundra Baber, a national pro-life speaker, founder of Momdacity, and a mom who conceived and delivered a baby boy after being sexually assaulted. Isn't abortion automatic after such a situation? Why would anyone carry the boy to term after being assaulted? Or perhaps, does an abortion create a new problem rather than fix the first? Listen as Cassaundra discusses these topics and more. You can also listen to the podcast at anchor.fm/Dr. Brian, Bryan Thatcher, and know that I would love to speak at your church on the Eucharist, Divine Mercy, Our Lady, and the Gift of Life. Please subscribe for free updates and support us if you can. And I hope you enjoy this exciting show. Cassaundra, thank you for joining us today on Mercy Unbound. And I was very touched after watching a couple of your video clips. And I'd like to just maybe start out by, could you just share with us a little bit about yourself and what happened?
Sure. So I'm Cassaundra, as you said. I did conceive a child through rape, as you mentioned. When I was 18 years old, I was a very new freshman in college, and a very young, I would say a young 18-year-old, rather naive. And I was actually at a club, and a man perpetrated me who was about 30 years old. I was a very young 18-year-old. When I tell you I was young, I looked like I was about 12. This was an 18 and older club, and he pretty much groomed me. For those of you who don't understand those terms, like those are sexual predator terms. He groomed me. He eventually got me to go outside with him, and trapped me in an alleyway. And I pretty much, out of fear and maybe even shock, I still deal with the consequences of the trauma of the rape. And I still go through various dealings within myself to figure out exactly what it was that made me stay. You know, I was afraid, and he basically said, if you don't have sex with me, you know, I'm going to do something to you. Essentially, so obviously I became pregnant, and I really didn't understand what happened. I know that sounds strange to people, but many sexual assault victims say these things. These perpetrators are very clever in how they bring in their victims. And clearly he had done this before. He knew where to go. I had lost my friends. This was before cell phones. He was leading me to different places. One of my amazing sexual assault therapists said that I saved my own life by going with him. So long story short, I didn't talk about it for 17 years. I found out I was pregnant 5 weeks later, and I went into mom mode. I was scared, but excited to be a mom. Go ahead, Brian, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to, while you were talking, what's going through my head is I'm the father. We have 4 daughters, and
Yeah.
you know, you send your little 18-year-old daughters off to college and very naive and don't think things like this happen and men could do such a thing. And you just pray that it doesn't happen. And, you know, I'm sure. So you found out you were pregnant. I mean, what kind of thoughts were going through your head? You're a single 18-year-old woman going to have a baby.
Yeah. I think initially I was I didn't have any emotion. I was in shock. And I had a lot of voices, right? A lot of young liberal college students. I was at a very wealthy private school. I was not a wealthy girl. I came from a small town, not a lot of money whatsoever. And these were girls who went to private schools and drove Jaguars. And I'm not saying that to put them down. I'm saying that because they were raised with different values. And they immediately told me I didn't have money, so I had to have an abortion. And these were the voices that I was receiving. And I knew I would not have an abortion. I was raised Catholic, devout Catholic, but beyond that, I knew abortion was wrong from a very early age, and that was only through the grace of Christ. Um, I forgot exactly how old I was, but I saw that my grandmother worked, volunteered for Birthright. Um, and I get emotional when I talk about this because God is so good. I saw my grandmother showed me the silent scream video.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
I
remember
watched it.
that?
Oh yeah.
And I was probably like 12. I couldn't, I was
Never forget.
immediately, it was it was like God stamped me. That was it. And from that point on, I was I was vocal about being pro-life. I mean, at that time in my life and where I lived, being pro-life wasn't a big deal. It wasn't something that we talked about or debated, but I did do a debate when I was in 8th grade. And when I did find out I was pregnant and my family found, and I told my family, my grandmother said, I knew you wouldn't hurt your baby because you did that speech in 8th grade. Um, so I was scared, but I was determined, I guess, if that makes sense. And I really kind of just shut down. I stayed to myself. I focused on my schoolwork and focused on taking care of my child.
Were your family around, or what kind of support system did you have at that time?
Um, I was I was at I'm not going to say which college. I was at a college in Florida where I was going to school, and I did finish out the year. That was really important to me. So I had some really good friends around me. My parents, my father was immediately supportive. And he and my son became best friends. And my mom was supportive very soon after she stopped freaking out,
Yeah, yeah.
as you may imagine a devout Irish Catholic mom might do. And I didn't talk, like I said, I did not talk about the rape. I didn't talk about it for 17 years. So
Really.
when they asked me about the father, I don't remember saying this, but my dad said when he asked, I said, don't ask me and I'm never talking about it. And I don't talk like that to my parents, like, especially my dad. So that was surprising to me when I did tell them that they both said I had said that to them
Wow.
individually. Yeah. So I had good support though from them, especially my father. And once my mother got over the initial feeling like she did something wrong because she felt like she did something wrong, that, maybe
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that.
You know, if you were to ask probably 100 people in our society right now, 99 at least would probably say, well, of course you're going to have an abortion. That's like the main number one reason for having an abortion. But yet, if you look at things, isn't that just creating another problem? You're not really, you never, a person doesn't forget the rape, I assume. And now you've got to deal with if a person has an abortion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So that infuriates me. You're going to hear me be very bold about this. It's ludicrous. And I know that even our pro-life Christian and Catholic brothers and sisters say these things. And this is why I came out very boldly with my story and with my organization. My son never made me think of being raped. The rapist's actions made me think of being raped. That rape is why I have PTSD. The rape is why I have flashbacks. My son brought me joy. He brought me joy in this horrendous darkness that I didn't even quite understand. And his life made my life easier. And I want to tell you the actual statistics behind rape because Planned Parenthood will never tell you that. And the only reason Planned Parenthood talks about rape is because they want to emotionally manipulate everyone. It's an emotionally manipulative argument and it infuriates me. I do not give that organization or any pro-choice, pro-abortion person permission to use my trauma to kill babies. Absolutely unbelievable to me. And I refuse to be silent about that. Until These people stop using my trauma, I will keep speaking. I will be speaking till I can't speak anymore. Let me tell you what the real stats are, because there have been studies that Planned Parenthood ignores, that the pro-choicers ignore, but I go by facts. I go by information. 77, so Sandy Maycorn, these are both doctors and psychologists, and Dr. David Reardon, they each did a study of women who conceived through rape. One was in the 70s, one was done in 2006. They came up with the exact same results. 73% of women who conceived through rape chose life. That's a bigger percentage than women who become pregnant and have abortions. We cannot allow rape to be an excuse for an abortion. What other crime is one of the victims destroyed because of that crime? Kill the rapist. If you want to kill someone, kill the rapist. This is completely unacceptable behavior. Rapists go free. Do you know who loves abortion? Rapists.
Right.
They love it. They have nothing to worry about. Pedophiles love abortion. This is not okay. I urge your viewers, and I know you have a lot of Catholic viewers, please stop allowing people to tell you that abortion is okay if rape is involved. It's not.
You know, if you even look in the medical journals or books describing how to do an abortion and things, they're using terms like dismembering the arms and legs and crushing the skull, and the Scream video, they suck out the baby and through a tube and into the jar, and the doctor said something like, "Beam me up, Scotty," like this is a joke. And we know the human heart is beating at 22 days. All the organs and things are developing and growing. And how can you say this thing is not a human is not living? It's growing, it's living, and yet they're saying it's just a glob of cells. And yet, well, why would you want to harvest organs if it's not a human being? And the logic is just terrible. I saw something the other day, Cassandra, where a satanic group was suing one of the states. Maybe you saw it.
That's the newest.
Inhibiting abortion rights was going to interfere with their satanic rituals.
I know. Does that not speak to people?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, the Satanic Church is telling you that abortion is a satanic ritual. I've known this for years and years and years. No, nobody wants to fight. I don't get it. And when I say nobody, of course, many of your viewers are fighting. We have to be bigger and bolder. This is a crisis.
But I also think our society is so ill-informed. And
yes.
Even if you look at, I believe it was Jefferson said that the destruction of the republic will happen due to an ill-informed voting bloc. And you look at people, they don't know. The news media is controlled, and we're just it's sad. We've got to stand up and fight and be careful how we use words and things.
I agree with you that we are ill-informed, and that's one of the reasons that I started Momdacity, because I want to empower women with information that they don't have about motherhood and abortion. However, everyone has the same opportunity to find information that I have. I happen to be a former journalist, and I've been in marketing, and now I'm going into law. We all are accountable in our own way. So yes, we are ill-informed, but by choice. And we're at a point that we have a lot of information available to us. And what God has told me and said to me, that we need to build armies. We need to build pro-life armies. And my intention is to build a group of people who are is passionate about ending the destruction of human beings as I am, and as there is a small percentage of us who are. And I'm not condemning anyone. I just think that people don't understand the gravity of it. Planned Parenthood specifically. So first of all, 1.5 million Americans are killed a year by abortion. 3,000 Americans per day by abortion. America. This is the United States of America. And it's not because of rape, and it's not because of incest. 95% of abortions are because essentially of inconvenience.
Right, right.
When we're killing human beings out of convenience, doesn't that suggest we're in a crisis?
You know, the irony too, Cassandra, is our society, there's so much hate right now and intolerance, and we don't respect anybody, each other, and people are walking around wondering, how are we going to get out of this? Well, I would suggest this is probably the main social issue of the day. And until we start respecting human life from conception to natural death, the old people, the disabled, the infants in the womb, the uterus is supposed to be the place where they're the most safest, you know?
Amen. Amen. And I agree with you entirely. And when I've had these conversations during our election time that, a lot of Christians did not vote pro-life because of the candidates in office. And to their credit, came to me because I had no tolerance for that. And why do you have no compromise? Because without the fundamental right to life, we don't have an America. Without the fundamental right to life, we don't have social issues. We cannot continue to stand by and watch and allow our children to be destroyed. And Planned Parenthood they have us. They have the country. They have people believing that life does not begin at conception. They have people believing that a baby in the womb is not a baby, is not human, even though science is very clear about that. And even the major pro-choice debaters at this point, they won't debate the fact that this is not human, because you can't.
Right.
They do very disgusting, unethical things. Of course, they have to, because abortion makes millions, billions of dollars a year for them. They can't run their institution without abortion. They're also the most racist, systemically racist institution in probably the world, but at least in the country. We have 13% of our country's Black American women. 40% of our abortions are of Black Americans.
If I could jump in, I'd interviewed Catherine Davis recently, and she's an African-American attorney from Atlanta.
Okay. Oh,
and
wonderful.
well written, well spoken. And she talked about Margaret Sanger, population control, eugenics, and how this was all set up. And it's really an effort to minimize the minority populations.
That's exactly right. So I won't even touch that topic.
They bought into it, and that's another amazing thing.
Yes, and with Momdacity, we focus specifically on those issues all through February. So I'm sorry.
I'll spell that out so the people watching this can go to your.
So
tell us how to get to watch your educational.
So right now, the organization is in its first phase. So bear with us as we are growing. I began in November, and we're in the first phase of just pushing out information and me speaking. And I'm just pulling together. I have a team now that is supporting me. But so you can find me on Facebook, Momdacity, MOMDACITY. So it's like audacity and mom. And you can find me on Instagram at momdacity_pro-life. You can email me at momdacity@gmail.com. And you can find me on Facebook individually as Cassaundra Baber, Baber.
How do you spell your first name, Cassandra?
It's Cassaundra. And please find me personally on Facebook and, just tell me, hey, I heard you on such and such Brian's show. So I don't think you're a creep.
You know, I'd heard one of your interviews and you talked about how these pro-choice women actually limit choice. Could you share with us your thoughts on that?
So one of the things that, we get blasted a lot, and which doesn't make sense, of course, is that the pro-life movement only cares about babies being born. I mean, first of all, oh no, what a terrible insult that we want human beings to not be destroyed before they're born. But secondly, if choice was so important to the pro-choice movement, they would make sure that women had the choice to have their children. And what would that involve? That would involve appropriate housing, appropriate finances, appropriate mentorship, which are all the things that the pro-life community does. So that, and they would make it affordable to adopt. There would be very different resources. But the pro-choice movement does not want women to have their children. And I'm going to be very clear about why. The abortion industry, once again, makes billions of dollars for a lot of people. They do this through birth control that fails. So they know that birth control will fail. They use low dose hormones for young girls. They market to these girls from the time they're in kindergarten. They teach them how to be comfortable with their bodies. So they're comfortable with their bodies. So then they're comfortable having sex, and it goes on and on and on. They give them birth control that will fail. They need to have abortion in order to make money. They train their crisis callers to make sure these girls have abortions. They train their crisis callers to put girls in a panic that their parents won't support them. There's nobody that will help them have their baby. We know that's not true. And we know that abortion is not the answer. Abortion doesn't stop any of these social ills. Abortion has not stopped poverty. Abortion has not stopped rape. Abortion has not stopped sexual assault. It hasn't made women go further in their careers. We now have a society of women who can't be mothers, who have to choose their career before motherhood. So now we have women who are told they can't be mothers until they're a certain age. So they're on birth control until 40 years old, and then they're ready to have children. And they can't because they're infertile. And they're infertile. I mean, I won't even get into the birth control discussion about infertility. That's a whole nother discussion. But many have had abortions, and that is a very serious trauma to the woman's body. This is not just a little like snip and it's gone. You take a pill and you pee. It's like, I know a lot of girls.
Procedure. Years ago, Father Frank Pavone and I had written a little book called Rachel Weep No More. And in it, we talked about part of it was the complications of abortion. There's certainly many. You have the mental, psychological, spiritual, emotional, higher addictions, higher alcohol, sexually transmitted disease. And it's very difficult because the people, a lot of them realize, hey, I did something really here that wasn't right. And they struggle with it interiorly.
They do. And they especially struggle when they start having they actually start having children. So just think about how we treat women who don't want their babies and women who do. Women who don't want their babies, it's a bunch of cells. It's not living. It's not growing. Women who want their babies, it's a baby. It's growing. It's moving. You can't eat fish. You can't drink caffeine. You can't take certain medications because it will hurt the baby. So it's a lie. And it's a lie that women believe because they want to justify abortion at the end of the day. There's a lot of pain around abortion. People think that women who have abortions deserve some kind of protection. They certainly deserve compassion, but we can't protect them from the truth. That's not fair.
Father Pavone had said to me recently, no lie can live forever. And I think that's the encouraging part of all this. one of the arguments I've heard, even from people I know very well, post things on Facebook like, "Oh, the pro-lifers, you want the woman to hold on to her baby and have the baby, but there's no support afterwards." I know that's not the case in our community. And again, people are ill-informed and they're too lazy to research because they want to stay in their mindset in the path of least resistance. And how about in your area? Are there things that the community does, the government does, or church does to help women?
Yeah, so I live in Charlotte. I've been here about a year and a half. And yes, there, from what I do know here, and I, I'm out nationally, but we have a maternity home. The churches are extremely active here. There's a group called Love Life that has a mentorship program, an adoption program, and a sidewalk counseling program. They're fantastic. Look them up. And then their model of sidewalk counseling is being used all over the country now. We have, we're the South. Charlotte is good. The churches are good to their people. And I just want to say that there's never an excuse to kill a human being. I find that to be really gross. So if I had 5 children and I was making great money and then I suddenly lost my job, which one of my children am I going to kill? Because I couldn't afford one. That's what abortion is.
Right.
I can't afford this child, so I have to kill him or her. We don't do that when children are at a different stage of development. Why are we doing this when they're at this other stage of development? We live in the United States of America that has the financial opportunities, educational opportunities for women like myself who lived in a poor family. You have to want it. You have to go forward. There are people who will help. God doesn't turn his back on single mothers. He doesn't turn his back on women who say yes to life. You have to make a serious choice that you don't want help. God, plain and simple, supports mothers. And truly and honestly, it's the only way that I got through it. I went to him for everything.
If you look behind me, you see the image of Jesus, the divine mercy. And, he told Faustina, "I am love and mercy itself. Never
Yes.
be afraid to approach me."
I have to tell you something really special and beautiful. And I only just remembered this recently. And I just told my mom when I was, I was very intentional that I wanted to have natural childbirth. I did not want drugs. I had no idea what I was thinking, but I did it. And I had a very hard labor, I had 26 hours of labor and a very hard, difficult delivery. Um, and I had a really kind and loving coach who helped me through the process. And she told me to have a vision of something to focus on. The other women and dads will remember this. So I didn't know what this image was, but I envisioned Jesus, the divine mercy. I remembered it recently, and I'm like, Mom, that I just realized that I was seeing the divine mercy, and my son has literally brought so much mercy into our family. And so much mercy to me. And I believe the perpetrator, that there is mercy there for him as well, because what joy and love my son brought into our lives. So I had to share that with you because I think it's so powerful, and how I didn't know that was the divine mercy. I didn't really understand what divine mercy was until probably 5, who knows, when I could like concentrate on those things.
But the other thing
At
is
some point.
the other thing is for women who have had abortions,
Mm,
many of them think that that is the unforgivable sin, and
mm.
they struggle with that. And that is not church teaching. That is not the Jesus King of Mercy. But you have to ask for his mercy, be merciful to others, and C, completely trust in God and turn it over to him and give it up. And, he hates the sin, but he loves the sinner. And we forget
Absolutely.
that. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
I'm with you on that. I'm always surprised. I've had several women confide in me about their abortions. And I'm always surprised, right? Because I'm so vocal about it. You know my work. And countless women. And I have brought so many of them, if they were Catholic, to confession or to repentance. They didn't know that that was an option for them. They didn't know that. I have several friends who left the church because of it. They couldn't go to their priest. They didn't feel like they could go. And I think that that is the greatest evil of the devil, like the greatest lie, that you're not forgiven. Oh my gosh. When I find out a woman has had an abortion and she's looking for help, I drop everything. That is the woman that I want to support. She is the one that needs the most mercy, and compassion.
as a physician, the church really is a hospital of the spiritually sick. And,
Yeah.
that's a great work of mercy to help someone heal, because that there's a lot of woundedness after these procedures. And, it's a beautiful work of mercy. And, can I ask how old is your son, or how's he doing? And
Yeah, he's doing really well. He will be 25. Yes, 25 in June. And he is a software engineer. He is, in terms of personality, complete opposite of his mother. He's very introverted. So I only get to talk to him when he calls, because he's not too chatty. So he's been this brilliant genius since like conception, clearly. And he's been a real huge blessing to raise. He's been a very easy child to raise. He's been way more responsible than me in his lifetime, and has really made me a better human being. It's amazing. It's really amazing how easy he was to raise.
I assume with all of your talking and things, he's aware of the situation of his birth.
Yeah, so he was the first person I talked to when I did finally face the actual trauma, and I asked him if he wanted to know about his conception, and I told him it was not like a very unnecessarily a nice, story, and he said yes. Oh no, actually, what he said is, only if it's okay with you, Mom.
Oh, wow.
So this is the kind of boy that we're talking about.
Mm.
And when he speaks, it's powerful because he speaks few words. Um, yeah, so he he's not going to be out there talking, and doing this work that I'm going to be doing, but he is a beautiful testimony of what God gives in potentially difficult circumstances. He has invented things that have allowed for you and I to even be doing what we're doing right now on this computer. Um, I always tell this story about this one day. I had a really long day at work. Um, I was a marketing director for a community foundation. It was just like one of those days. And he was probably like 15 or so. And I came home and we had spring break, and I came home and I said, "Hey, what'd you do today, honey?" And he said, "Well, I made software that now that allows me to voice activate our lights and our television. And then I made our television into a touchscreen TV." And then he said, "What did you do today?" And I said, "Nothing. I did nothing at all compared." So, I mean, it's really funny because my friends and family have enjoyed the stories of Cassandra and Dakota, because like their stories like, why are there computer parts in the bathroom, kind of thing, right? Like your dirty underwear and your computer parts are in the bathroom. That's what it's like to live with a computer genius. But now he's got his own place in Manhattan. I don't have to worry about all that. He's
So
fancy pants.
While you were speaking, I was reminded of the quote years ago Mother Teresa made of how she said children are an inconvenience, a burden, and a nuisance, and they're the greatest gift. And during the AIDS epidemic, someone, sarcastically asked her, well, if God's so merciful, and why doesn't he send us somebody that could cure AIDS? And she said, well, he has several times, but you keep aborting them. And there you go.
Yes, I just told someone that recently. And I got it wrong because I thought it was an apparition of Our Lady. And I said, I thought it was cancer and AIDS. Well, oops, sorry, whoever I told that to, not quite. I know. And do you know, she also told Hillary Clinton that the reason there was no female president yet was because she was aborted.
Interesting.
I know. She's great.
Well, Cassandra, keep up the great work. Tell the people again how they can, what's the website address, or not the website, the Facebook and
yeah, sure. So
social media sites.
It's Momdacity, MOMDACITY, and at Momdacity_pro-life. And you can find me at Cassaundra Baber, Baber. Also, just keeping in mind next year, I'm putting together a conference for next year that will bring mothers and daughters together to teach them how to have the conversation about abortion with each other and then with others. So this is how we're starting to build these armies. We need to have ambassadors for life. I never have these conversations. I generally don't have these conversations, and I never have to bring religion in. It's all science gives us all the information we need. Logic gives us all the information we need about abortion. We have the statistics. So it's just about arming for some reason, God is asking me to do this with mothers and daughters right now. So please pray about that.
Do you have a date set or?
I don't have a date yet.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. Get back to
I will. Next year, I'm imagining around this time next year, putting together the speakers right now. So if y'all could keep that in your prayers. See, I'm saying y'all, I've only lived in Charlotte for 2 years. If you could keep that in your prayers, I would really appreciate it. And I do speaking engagements and virtual lecture
Zoom interviews type thing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're calling them.
Hopefully that'll open up here pretty soon. We'll all be out on the circuit spreading. But well, Cassandra, I really want to thank you for joining us on Mercy Unbound. You can also listen to the podcasts at anchor.fm/Dr. Brian Thatcher. Support us if you can. Subscribe to the series. We've got a lot of great speakers coming up, and Cassandra, I just encourage you to keep up the great work. And darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. And hatred cannot drive out hatred, only love can. So keep up the great work. We'll get back to you hopefully soon, and stay in touch, and God bless all of you. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video portion. The podcast can be heard at anchor.fm/Dr. Brian, Bryan Thatcher, Thatcher, and on all the major podcast forums. I would love to speak at your church or conference, and please consider supporting our efforts to spread the truth to a hurting world. Thank you again. And for more information, go to the website at drbrianthatcher.com.